Welcome to the Unsupervised Podcast, the podcast for entrepreneurs, business owners, and leaders. In today's episode, are you hiring for vibes or skills? We're creating a team you actually want to work with. Oh, the joys of a new studio. Back to our roots. I mean, we've gone through so many sound tests and just testing and trying out new things, and through our other studio, through Peak One and Business and Beyond and Man Shed Podcast, we kind of had it honed in that we're all cocky walking in here to a new studio. And
threw a wrench in it and thought we're just
it took about 45 minutes to get everything set back
just to
up,
get the mics dialed
the right
back
way,
in,
and
because
then
they've been moved around, put on different stands, changed and worked on, and
different elements, different environments, different everything. And I mean, this is more, if you're watching on YouTube, you could probably notice we're a lot more relaxed. We're not hunkered up leaning on desks in a smaller, we get, a lot of space in here, a lot of wide space.
Yeah, you and I are on opposite sides of the room.
Yeah, I know. We're used to being like a couple feet away, and now, we got to deal with that element of wider space, more, different.
But it does
sound.
work with all the stands in here and all the cameras and lights and.
Yeah, that was our only.
Cool.
The other one, like when we do Man Shed Podcast at my studio, it works great. We don't mess with cameras because there it's like we're all close together. It works with those mics on that soundboard, but then you get cameras. We almost have to do different. Like me and you are able to make it work with one tripod, just kind of moving it. But once you get three people in there, it's like, well, if you move one further away, it's getting closer to somebody else, and
yeah, you almost need cameras like behind you that are shooting over you to the other person.
Yeah, that's kind of.
But then you just need
close
the space.
Quarters.
When you're in too close of a quarters, it's hard to do that.
And then when you start adding that, I don't know how much we've really dug into it. The more electronics you have, that can affect. I noticed with our headphones,
sound issues with too much frequency.
And Justin can attest to this with Man Shed. Like we thought we had crappy headphones, and they were cheap headphones we've been using forever, but his were messing up, and I'm like, no, it's something to do, because I would swap the headphones and they were fine, and we figured out it was just a cord. We just replaced the cord, and that's all it was. It works fine now, so you never know. We were going through the mics. I was about to say, well, my cord might be different than your cord. There's so many,
and that could be part of what we were seeing today is your cord's 15 feet long.
We might be overcompensating with gains and volumes because the cords aren't, and it's been a while since we've purchased stuff. We're just going through stuff we've had over the years.
6 or 7 years now. Yeah.
So, since 2020 is when we started. About 6 years. So we would just buy stuff just to see if it worked, trial and error. And
you and I both have totes full of cords and cables and adapters.
Usually when I rearrange stuff, like, okay, I'm going to have a fourth person on the podcast or this or that, I always think, okay, this is what I need. And I'll go through my stuff and I'll find it just because we've had it at some point. And it might be a situation when we start upgrading stuff just to buy all the cords at the same time or place them at the same time. But hey, we got it working. New studio. Hopefully it's better aesthetics for everybody watching. I don't think I've ever been as relaxed on a podcast as I am right now.
I think the only thing we're missing is like some LED lighting, maybe backlighting us or something cool. I don't know. Yeah,
we're just worried about the sound. So I said I was about to just pull up YouTube and listen to our first couple episodes and be like,
get some confidence that it's
because that was where I was going with it. It was like, because it's either you do 8 episodes and you just cannot get it figured out, or you work on it for 10 minutes and all of a sudden it starts working and there's no in between.
And you have no idea what you did or changed.
Yeah. You have we have marks on all of our mics. And that's what I kept going to, but I was like, I guess that mark is completely irrelevant now because that's not the setting we need to have it on. But, different studio, like you said, different situations, further apart, different. It's way above my head.
It's been about 5 years since we've done a multi-person podcast in here.
Yeah.
I've done a few by myself or, calls where we've done them virtually.
And back then we were even closer together than in my studio. Oh, yeah. That desk was half the width.
Yeah. For sure.
Like you could go back on the same YouTube page. It's just rebranded, but Business and Beyond, go all the way back to the first episodes we uploaded. And you can see how close me, you, and Tyler was in here. I don't know if
we had
if Anthony was on one of them.
Anthony came in one here. Zapata.
Yeah, it's...
not Zapata. Parada.
Parada, and it's... That's what I was just about to say. It's like, no, it wasn't Zapata. It was Parada. But, I mean...
Man, you're giving me the vibes like we got to get Anthony back in here now.
We do. I don't know where we put him, though. We put him somewhere. We'll figure it out. We can get it. We might need to... we have one at Rangers' old ballpark, Choctaw.
Yeah.
We have that studio. Very boring. We might need to, like, bring stuff to temporarily put on the wall. Yeah.
Bring in our own fake plants.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, all the plants in here are all real plants that you see.
That's a flex.
That is a flex.
I think that's a flex.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got one in my office at work. It's only real because I bought it for Valentine's Day. Because my wife hates flowers. She will not take flowers. Not to get into it, but her dad, who's not in the picture, would get flowers in bad situations. And she just hates the money. They're going to be dead anyway. So I buy her a plant, and it lasts forever or however long. And we were rearranging, and I got the plant and took it to work. But other than that, I was like, I'll just buy fake plants because then I got to worry about watering them and all that. But no, I think that's a flex to have real plants.
Yeah.
It helps with the aesthetic. See,
now
I'm running all these things in my head about what we need to do in here.
I'll tell you a trick about real plants in an office like this is not to water them, is to ice them. Put handfuls of ice and it waters them slow.
I thought you legit were about to go crazy hippie on me, and you say, no, you just talk to them.
Well, I do
and
that
you hug
too.
them.
No, there are studies that show that when you walk into a room, they've done like thermal imaging on plants.
Yeah.
The plants actually react to people walking into the room. The energy changes, and the plants actually will react.
But it doesn't
on a
molecular
level.
Yeah, it doesn't replace water. That's what I thought you were going with. You don't need to water them.
You just put
hug
a
your
couple
plants.
handfuls of ice, a few times a week.
Just
it waters them. It melts and waters them slow. You don't overwater them.
It's like that drip irrigation rather than just throwing water all over them. That's a good idea. You just throw ice on them. You don't have to keep watering them.
Yeah. Well, the dirt doctor has nothing on us. Kidding. He's
another podcast idea.
He's the man. He knows his stuff.
There's another podcast idea for that. Just gotta come up with a name. I don't know. I'm getting too laid back here. We're recording this late at night on a weekend. I'm used to that being man shed time, so I'm trying to stay focused and more appropriate. It's a completely different type vibe of a deal. But we're going to talk about hiring people, especially small businesses. Maybe they don't. I mean, you remember the first person you hired. It happened very quickly. Mm-hmm. After a lot quicker than you thought it was going to be. And before my current job, like I had never hired anybody before. I'd never gone through the process. And, I work for a big corporation. So we literally go through the process of recruiting to looking at resumes to setting up phone interviews and in-person interviews and all that kind of stuff. So that was kind of scary because nobody really told me anything. I kind of just went off the whim, and we're kind of thinking, hey, what's better? Go for vibes or skill, experience. And
there's not like a master class on hiring, really. I mean,
I'm sure there's seminars. You can look up YouTube just like anything else, but maybe someone's looking up YouTube right now.
But there's no training, official training that a company gives you on how to hire people.
I think HR might give you training on what not to do, or you're not allowed to ask these questions. Or I guess I had that training. Well, not really training. I went to a seminar about something completely different, but it talked about, and that's the one thing I remember out of it, like you can't ask pregnant women about, when their babies due and things like you're not supposed to or whatever. And there's lots of times like I'm just thinking in my mind that I'm kind of being a jerk or something by not asking certain questions, but I'm like, I don't think I'm supposed to ask that question, which doesn't matter, I guess, unless they want to come back and sue you. Because the main thing with that is they don't have to prove you did that. You have to prove you didn't do that.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
Which honestly, those types of things, I mean, if you really think about it, are kind of irrelevant to hiring someone, right? Like you meant just the example of a pregnant woman. Like you're worried about, they're going to be out for however long with, for maternity leave. Like, well, but if that's such a short amount of time, if you're looking to hire someone for a decade, that's you hope is going to be here for 10 years. Yeah, but in the short-term
thinking, it's also, I'm hiring somebody because I need somebody too. And I may only have them for a few months, and then they go on maternity leave, and they may not come back.
But there's also that aspect of it that if you're having to hire someone that quick just to fill a void you have, are you really spending enough time thinking about, you're just trying to get somebody here now. You don't want to train them. You don't want to spend any time. You just need them to help in production. And, that could backfire too, because that may end up being a short term because it was just for a need. And then later you start really digging in. You're like, man, this person really wasn't that great of a hire, but we just need someone so bad.
And I've been in that situation, and it really depends, because that's not necessarily the worst thing in the world when you work for a big corporation, because you're not really, I mean, you kind of worry about the costs of it, but it's not that big a deal. Like for you, if you're just like, I'm just going to hire somebody and then it doesn't work out, that legitimately costs you money and costs you a lot of time, effort. When I took over the location I did, it almost was, hey, as long as you have the minimum credentials, I talk to you and I kind of like you. I have good vibes from you. You're probably going to get offered the job if we can get the pay right and the start time, all that right. There were a couple of people that I just had terrible vibes from. And sometimes, like when I was hiring drivers, that's a little different, because lots of times you think, well, they're drivers. Like, you're not going to deal with them a lot, but that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah.
So I just kind of...
Especially when you get into a situation, you may ask them to do something that may be outside of their scope. Or
in my situation, it's local work that they the drivers interact with each other.
Yeah.
So
and customers.
That's not, yeah, exactly. That's the one thing people don't think about, is like, if you're an over the road driver and you're just sure you want to be presentable and good to your shippers and receivers, but like when you're local, they are literally delivering face to face to your customers. But like when you can just shovel people in there and just be like, okay, I'm just going to hire. We're going to see what they work for now. We'll see how it works later. In general, I think vibes are the main way to go. Like, almost like trust your gut. Like, obviously there has to be a minimum level of experience depending on what you're doing. If you're hiring a lawyer for a law firm, sometimes it's, hey, our vibes jive together. That might not even matter, because you probably want that asshole that'll go in and win you cases. It doesn't matter how, obviously maybe some of it matters, but you're probably not looking for somebody you can get along with necessarily. Well, obviously a doctor, you're going to look for qualifications. In my situation, I look for some experience helps. It's not just like no experience, I don't want bad habits type of deal, or it's kind of like, I'll take it into consideration. Like, if I really have to have a good feeling about you if you come in with no experience, minimum qualifications. But lots of times it's all about the culture. That's kind of what you want to gear towards. And early on when you're hired, because I've hired, the 13 people that work under me, I've hired 10 of them. And there are 3 or 4 that ended up not working out previously that I've hired. But when you first start, you kind of have to figure out, we got to build this culture. We got to have the right people in here. And it's all up to you whether, I was wrong or right. It's working out right now. But I kind of have the way I work, and my culture might work better for me managing it than, like we were talking about, these mics pick up different voices, pick up different situations. That works better for different. We put these in my building. We might have to switch my studio. We have to switch all the settings around. But you pick for the right, the right culture, and you kind of get the mix. And then as you get the culture built, you can tell people. Now it's the other way around. It's not you're interviewing for me. I'm interviewing for you, trying to get you to work here. It's the opposite, because I'm going to tell you, you know what? My guys have a really good thing going, and I'm not the first person you have to answer to if you're not doing your job correct. They are, because they're the ones that are going to have to pick up the slack for you.
Yeah.
And I think once you get your culture set for the most part, and you're just hiring to add on, I think then you can start focusing more on experience and things like that, because they're not going to bring down the whole culture.
Well,
now, it might be a good or a bad.
And I'm glad you brought that. Culture is also a double-edged sword, because sometimes in the culture you want to hire guys that only fit the mold, that have the same ideas, the same goals, the same things you want, right? But sometimes that can hurt you, and especially in a situation like mine or other creative types, it's going to hurt you in innovation, because you're not bringing in fresh minds that are different than yours, different viewpoints. It's going to hurt problem solving, because if you bring in all the same people that all agree with everything you agree with, it might seem like your day-to-day is easier, but you're not actually solving those problems because it's one mindset only. And there's long term, I think, as growth and companies need to evolve and change, that's, you need to have different mindsets, different aspects, different backgrounds, different viewpoints. I try not to, as much as possible, talk about my business, but sometimes that's what I've seen. And, for me is I had a certain mindset, a certain thought process, a design, style, and bringing in more help has helped expand that and actually helped us grow the business more, because I was stuck to only certain customers, only certain types of jobs, because I had one mindset.
Yeah.
When I bring someone else in that has a different mindset and different likes and, is almost the complete opposite of what I am, it's actually helped our business grow. Now, where the culture part comes in is developing that culture and that goal of this is what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
We all need to be on the same page, even if we're on different lines or in different paragraphs, right?
Yeah.
We need to be going in the same direction, even if we all have different thoughts and different opinions about it. We can discuss those. And I understand in corporate settings, that doesn't work, right? You have the hierarchy, and at the top, they're making the decisions, telling you where it's going, and everyone there just has to try to get you to that. And you don't really get a lot of the decisions can't go through other people. They can't help have a lot of
ideas
input.
Can when you run into issues. It's like if I'm thinking the exact same way as somebody else. Example is I have two completely different types of service techs I have working, and that's good. Now, you almost have to think sometimes. Now, obviously, one of them is way more experienced than the other. So when you're looking at, okay, we're going to assign this job to this person, you think about that. And there's some things like, I'd rather this guy do it. But at the same time, you get that. Like lots of times it's, this guy may be more brains and this guy more brawn and this guy has more experience than this guy. Mm-hmm. But there are sometimes like, hey, this is going to get very frustrating if we send this guy out here rather than the experience. But at other times it's, hey, shit just needs to get done. We'll send him out there because he's going to question my 9 million times. He's great, but he's also going to say, hey, is this really what we need to be, and overthink it, Yeah. At the same point, it's like, I can't hire everyone the same way. I don't ask the same questions in interviews. Maybe with drivers or service techs or customer service reps, I'm going to ask obviously different questions. But you also have the deals. Everyone's in their best behavior, and they're going to kind of tell you what you want to hear. And if they're not, it's easy. It's an easy red flag to see like, hey, this is the time you're supposed to be at your best. So you'll get the things where you tell them, hey, this is what time I expect us to work. You can come in as early as you want. You can obviously those are all good things. But at the same point, if somebody tells me this is what we expect, and I may not like that in my head, but I still want the job, I'm going to say, yeah, for sure. I'm going to do that. Now, the difference is I'm probably just going to do that or, not pursue continuing to go to that job.
To the point when you talk about culture, and it's a very tricky, broad term of, you can get people in that maybe think, yeah, that's, yeah, I agree. And then when they get out there with a new hire and they're telling them, hey, whatever they say about culture is crap. They're lying to you. It's not really like that. It's different. Well, then you get people that are kind of trying to agree with your culture, but then they're also behind your back, talking about it. And there's a slippery slope to culture, because what is culture? How does it actually, you could have good culture or bad culture. It doesn't all. And, there's actually two different types. There's not just one type. There's two different types of, there's value congruence, and then there's perceptual congruence. So the value congruence is the alignment between an employee's personal values and the organization's values.
Yeah.
Which can be different. But I think that's important to know that the values that you hold for your company and that you have can be different from what your employees have, right? You will come in here and I want to make a lot of money, or I want a certain title. I want power. I want control. I want, I want to be a manager. Or you come in and say, hey, I just want a lot of vacation.
Yeah.
Why is that a problem for me if you want to come here and do a good job, but you want to take time off and you're willing to sacrifice maybe a little bit of pay or a little bit of power to be able to have that? Or you come in, hey, I want power. I don't care about the money or vacation. I'll work every day. I'll never take vacations. I just want to work and earn that.
Yeah.
That's part of the
well, at the same time too, you could have the exact same mindset, the company and the employee, but if the employee doesn't believe that that's what the company's mindset, like I work for, when I talk about culture, I'm talking about at our local level. Now, my company and other locations, it's a very big company. Different locations might have different goals, but for the same, I feel like everybody at a local level has like the same goals, the same culture. We're, a family. And I know that we said that was a faux pas thing to say about, on a different episode, but they have that mindset. And then we, drivers and reps and everyone still have to deal with people at a region level, at a corporate level, at, whatever, on a daily basis. And they don't like dealing with those people. And then they're like, well, this person's trying to screw me. This person's trying to do that. My perception is a little bit different. We're like, man, I think you're giving them too much credit. I don't think they're actually thinking that far into it. They're just randomly doing something and it happens to be screwing you, and then you kind of have to keep that culture together where you're kind of like, yeah, man, I'm on your side. Screw them type. Well, but you're also at the same part of like, hey, we got to.
That's where perceptual congruence comes in. When the employee has the ability to come in with their values and their views on it, but also understand what the organization's viewpoints and goals are, and they can work together with both of theirs versus you just having to create minions and just, hey, you're going to do exactly what we tell you to do, and this is how it's going to be, my way or the highway type.
Right.
Situation.
We're like, safety is is important until it's not. In some company, and I have to say, I do not speak for my company. I have to make sure I put that preface in there. I'm not going to say my company. It's not difficult to find that, but with all joking aside, I don't speak for my company, and nothing I say here affects that. But yeah, sometimes that comes up where safety is important. This is the most important thing until you profits get in the way of something, and then they're kind of like, well, I didn't tell you to do this, but. I'm kind of telling you to do this type situation.
Well, and that's,
and that's really, when the employee level, they're like, nobody cares about us.
Yeah. Well, and that's what's important to have norms and have, certain beliefs in the organization and behaviors that you have to set in place. And I feel like they should be very minimal, just setting, hey, these are the things, like you said, hey, this is what time we start. This is what we do on the job. This is how we treat our customers. This is how we handle these situations. Set all of those, but then it's good to let people flourish a little bit and not expect that when you're training someone like on a sales call that, hey, this is what you say, this is how you say it. Like everyone should be, because if you're uncomfortable in that situation, you're not going to do as good of a job as, if you're trying to do it how I would do it.
You show them. The same with, every position. He's like, hey, this is how I do it. Everybody's going to do it different. You're going to do this. Every trainer I've ever had from any position, I've taken a little bit from them, one way or, something that I've carried on, even in different positions, different companies. But everyone's going to do something different, but you're going to show them how to do it, how you do it, and then kind of go over and see how they do it and kind of correct and meet somewhere in the middle. They're going to take some stuff from you. But yeah, everyone's going to be
and as you hire new people, they're going to help contribute to your culture also. They're going to help you navigate and change how your culture was.
Better or worse, for the better or worse. They will contribute to the culture.
Yes, but what I'm looking at is the positive side of that is, especially in a small organization where maybe you don't have much of a culture established, they're going to help you define that and build that and bring aspects into it that you didn't think of that would be good for the culture,
Yeah.
Like just respecting others and like, I don't know. We don't have like a set, this is our cultural standards here or anything. So I don't even know what all things fall under culture. To me, it's just, how do you treat each other? How's the environment? For us, our culture it's fun. We're going to have music. Yeah. We're going to, we treat each other with respect. We never get heated at each other. We just have discussions. Everyone gets a viewpoint. There's not one person that's dictating this is how it's going to be one way or the other.
Yeah, I think culture, like when you try to define your culture, like an official standpoint, it gets kind of cheesy and you're like mission statement. Not that I'm against any of that, but how often have you ever gone to, when you work for a company with a mission statement and said, hey guys, and point at it. Like, we're not doing a pledge of allegiance. More than likely, if it ever gets brought up, you're making fun of it. And that's happened plenty of times, not from my
and when the company doesn't follow it.
Exactly. No, I'll tell you, I have an employee who will point to the mission statement. He only brings it up when it doesn't fall in line, when we're, more or less telling him to do something, and, it's 100% right. But at the same point, I never try to convince somebody to do something and then say, hey, you're not doing it. Look at the mission statement or anything like that. Like, it never works from a positive standpoint. I don't think, like, overall from a psychological level, I'm sure it makes people feel prideful about their company and all that. But like, from a smaller company, I'm not going to say, hey, man, first thing I tell you to do is get a mission statement, print it off, put it on the wall.
Yeah.
I think having a mission statement's important. I think it does in general. But, like, if you ask somebody who's worked, for you for 10 years,
I see a lot of motivational quotes, and I see a lot of Bible verses and things, and I tend to kind of adopt them from time to time, and just maybe I'll write them on a whiteboard and they're just there. I'm not pushing it on anyone.
I don't know if you can see this in the camera. They're right behind me. There's a good one. I have that on my wall at work too. I put that more so for me, but if somebody sees it and picks up on it, great. I think that at least gives everyone kind of a viewpoint of where I'm at, and what I'm thinking and what I see and what I'm kind of trying to adopt every day. And I'm not pushing it on them. I think that's how you build the culture, is show by example. Yeah.
If whatever I'm doing, if that's the way we want the culture to be, I just hope that everybody else kind of will get on board with that.
They know what you're all about.
Exactly.
Yeah, it might not be the same thing. They're not going to read this, be 1% better every day. That resonates with me, because when you have a really rough day, it's like, well, I did knock it out of the park today, but I was 1% better than I was yesterday.
Well, one thing we've started recently, and it's good, it's early in the year that we kind of started doing that, is our big thing in it, and I feel like it's starting to stick, is let's just win today.
Yeah.
We just got to win today. That's it. We're not thinking about the month, the quarter, the year.
Yeah.
We're just going to win. And in some days, we've had a couple of them this week that were really tough days. And at the end of the day, when, it was time to punch out and everyone was leaving, like I just said, hey, we won today.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was hard work. That was hard work, but
made money. You did however you have to look at it.
And that sometimes is it. It's, okay, well, you know what? Today sucked. We had a lot of hiccups, a lot of tough customers, but look at the revenue for the day.
Yeah.
That was good. We exceeded expectations for the day on that. That's a win. And every day that may look different. And maybe you can say, well, we're fabricating wins. We're just picking out the positives. But, for us, that works. That helps keep everything positive, because who wants to go home on a negative and be like, oh, this day sucked. This was crap. We did. No, man, we won today. Here's what we won. And that helps us reflect on the day, to see that. And that's kind of the culture I want to build, is more of a positive.
Yeah, it's a mentality thing. Like, I'm not going to do the exercise. You've probably seen it on 100 podcasts, but if you look around, I tell you, pick everything in this room that's red, and you look around, and I'll say, did you see that green bottle over there? No, you didn't notice it because this is your podcast studio. You probably noticed it, but you didn't because you were looking for red.
Yeah.
Just like I tell you, hey, think of all the positives. You're not going to think of the negatives. Mm-hmm. And I know that's another kind of a cheesy way to do it, but that mentality, that's right. Because you could do the exact same thing with negative days or positive days, and like, did you really accomplish stuff today?
Well, if you start building on the negatives, you end up with a big pile of negatives.
Yeah. If
you build on those positives, you end up with a lot of positives.
Yeah, and it's a mindset. And sometimes that's just what you need to get up in the morning, to go to work, to go do this, to go knock on one more door, to go finish one more project. It's all. And
I'm not that hoorah rah guy. Oh, let's go. We're gonna. That's not me. And some people it is, and some people it's not. And I never really enjoyed working for people like that were just like, oh, let's go. We're gonna conquer the man, I don't know. So the little positives I give is like hey, let's just win today. Yeah. Hey, that was positive. We did good today, man. Pat yourself on the back for this is what we got done. Forget about all the negatives. Forget the crap. We'll move on. We'll just, it's behind us. We'll move forward. Let's build on those. So the next day when we come in, you're typically still a little bit on that high of, man, look, we brought in this work, or we won this project, or this job finally got completed, even if it was a terrible job, but it's done. And now we don't have to deal with it anymore. That's a win.
Yeah. And a lot of days you fake it. you're gonna have to be in a good mood. You have to fake it, but if you look at all the positives, that's less days you have to fake.
There was a video I saw recently that this young kid. I think he's from Canada. I can't remember. He's pretty popular, at least on my stuff. That he's like a motivational speaker, and I think he started around COVID time. So when he started, trying to get some speaking gigs, and he's always speaking positively, and that's his big push on things. And he said, this told the story. One time he was on a bus. And he got on the bus, and the bus driver's, real upbeat, and he was having a crap day. And he's like, man, what's this guy so happy for? And, the guy's playing music, and, he's like, why are you so upbeat? Why are you singing and playing music? He's like, oh man, why not? Why not? I'm going to change people's lives by just being happy and singing. And as soon as he sits down, he's like, this guy starts playing music and singing and trying to get people to sing along. And, and he, the guy's like, halfway through the bus ride, he's like, man, this dude changed my life. Like, I'm starting to sing along now, and we're all, like, the whole bus is singing along to this stuff. It's like, by the time he got off, he's like, man, you changed my life. Like, you turned my whole day around. Yeah. Just because of that positivity. And, that's part of the, I think, culture. And when you're talking about vibes is, build that around you. When you find people that don't have to be you. They don't have to look like you, sound like you, or act like you, but, find someone that is going to mesh into that and just going to come and bring a positive attitude. And, I try to do that every day, man. That's first thing is someone walks in. I don't start saying, oh, we got this. Hey man, what's going on? How's it going out? Like, good morning. Like, have those positive, like, let's start on that. And if it takes 10 or 15 minutes of us just chatting about how the weekend was, or, what's going on? What are you doing this week? Or maybe it's late in the week. It's like, hey, what do you got going on this weekend? Like, we'll take that extra time. Because I think that's what helps build your culture, when it's not just, what is the term, assholes and elbows, oh, just get in here. You're on the clock. We got to start working. Yeah. If you actually can care about people, I think that's the big thing, is getting to know people and care about them. That's how you can help develop those cultures, and how we talk about the vibes. Those are the vibes you're looking for, right? It's people that, just have the same love for life, maybe, or, joy for wanting to come into work. Yeah, and you get down on their levels and just be like, hey, some days are going to suck. We'll just get through them, but we're going to have more good days than we have bad days. Talked about it today. My operations manager, he was talking to one of our drivers, and they were just having a bad day. And he was talking about how me and him were out in the field yesterday, driving around, checking on some stuff, went, had lunch. He's like, some days are just going to be chill like that. Some days they're not. Some days you got to work, but other days you're not. And if you enjoy the people you're hanging out with, you can shoot the shit, talk about, football team that just lost or won or whatever, you can actually have those conversations and just kind of chill at work sometimes. And that's really what it is. Yes, sometimes it sucks, but usually if you're just sitting around talking about stuff, anytime I come and work for you for a day, like, it doesn't feel like work to me. I probably do more manual labor working for you than I do at my actual job. And it doesn't feel like work to me, just because we're having fun doing it. Mm-hmm. And lots of things, like, I think in your situation, somebody you would hire for your company would be doing something so unique. I don't know. I mean, there may be some things like, oh, somebody you want to hire, you're interviewing, has some experience in something you're doing. But lots of times it's like, hey, if they're just willing to learn, eager to learn, now it's going to cost you more money in training. And trying to develop that person is taken away from you doing your job sometimes to show them how to do it. But, lots of times, ideally in your mind, like, oh yeah, I want somebody with tons of experience. But sometimes that person's a better fit for you. Yeah. If they check all the other boxes, and it's just a matter of teaching them a trade or teaching them a skill. And it's a risk too, because, there's a better chance that it doesn't work out, because this is something new to them. They're just going to see if it works out. And lots of times you can say, hey, if you're vibing with them the right way, you're like, we'll figure it out. We'll just figure out what your strengths and weaknesses are. Now you could say, hey, this person's got 10 years experience. They know what they're doing, but maybe at the company they were at, things were different. They don't like the way you do it. Yeah. And you might have to fight with them on that. Well, you're typically paying them a lot more money. There's also this big thing in a lot of the trades that is, 10 years of fucking up doesn't doesn't count. Like that. It's not the same.
It may not
if you're
even
doing
be
things the
fucking
wrong
up,
way.
too.
Just
It could
because you've been doing it for 10 years doesn't mean it's the way we would want it to be done, or even the right way to be done. So
yeah, and if they may be doing it right for that company, and then they come to you and they're like, well, this is how you do it. You're like, well, why is this? This doesn't work for us for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Well, that's how I did it over there because it worked. Because they may have different systems in place. They may have completely different. A whole different situation over there that it may be the correct way to do it there.
But you also
not
don't want
necessarily
to.
here.
You don't want to not entertain that either, and think, man, that maybe they could help us in some areas that we don't realize we're struggling in, and we could make things easier, or up our production, up our innovation. That's good to have those other perspectives too. So it is a fine line when you're hiring. Whether it be vibes or culture,
I think vibing, you're vibing off them, not necessarily just because they're similar to you. Just like, I like this person. I think this will work well because the question's obviously, hey, you interview two people, one with quite a bit of experience, one with none, but you like this person better. You're just vibing with them. You think they'd be a better fit. It's like, which one do you want to go for? But if you have one with experience and one with no experience and you're feeling the same way about them, you're obviously probably going to go with the one with experience. It's not necessarily a negative thing. It's obviously a positive thing. I have my culture built at my company now, and there's somebody next month that's going to come to us transferring from a different location, and I'm kind of excited about it. We don't have to do much. We're going to let him ride around for a couple of days just to get to learn the area. Mm-hmm. But other than that, like, he's ready to go. It's a complete different situation than hiring somebody new. And a big corporation, you go through this long training process, and it might be 2 months before they're kind of on their own. Then you're kind of really starting training because learning videos and all the paperwork crap doesn't necessarily teach them how to do the job. It just teaches them rules and things like that. So it's definitely a give and take because like now if you hired an additional person, it wouldn't just like take you up to there's a couple of y'all that can train, but it's you're paying somebody to not really do any more production, and not only are they not producing, they're taking you away from it sometimes to train. So the timing's got to be right, the need's got to be there, but obviously getting the right person will help because then it's like, hey, margins are thin right now just because we're paying this person extra for not a lot.
And it's really important before you hire someone that you assess what your culture is. Not just assessing the need you have in production or manpower, but also assessing where you're even at in your culture and who would be the right fit. It's hard to hire someone and think, oh, they're going to be a great fit. Well, where are we at? I mean, is our culture crap now? Like, how is that going to help anything? Bringing someone in and we have bad culture as it is. Mm-hmm. So that's important, I think, to assess where you're at in it before you ever hire another person. Make sure it's not just for a need you have, but that they're actually gonna fit well because you spend more time with your coworkers and at work than you do with your family.
Yeah. So
you really have to like them. They need to be a good fit, and yes, you want good workers, but you also want somebody that's going to mesh with your team and is not going to make things miserable for you when everyone comes in.
Yeah, and understand that your team now knows what you're willing to put up with.
Yeah.
Because if you bring somebody new, hey, this is the perfect fit, but you don't have your people under control. Everyone may get along, and that's just fine. But it's like, well, they know that what they can get away with. Because you're like, it's not really that big a deal. As long as the job gets done, I don't really care. And then somebody comes in and sees that, and then now this person may be great, but now they're taking advantage of it.
Well, you've seen that
or they
analogy.
see they get away with it, then they get pissed off, and you drive them away.
You've seen a carton of strawberries. There's one moldy one in there, and it touches one that's good, and the good one gets mold.
Yeah,
and then the next good one gets mold, and then that mold spreads. So it's the same thing with people. And when you have a team that, has one rotten egg, they're going to rub off on the others, and it's going to change that person, like you said, and the production will go down or the attitudes will change, or they'll leave because they don't want to be part of that too.
Yeah. You have to be strategic with who you let train who, and when you're in a small business, it may not matter. You can fire anybody you want to fire whenever you do, I guess, depending on where, what state you're in and things like that. But when you work for a big corporation, unless it's like blasphemy or, they assault somebody or, something very specific. It's not, you can't just necessarily fire them.
Yeah.
And they know, especially the guys who know what they can get away with legally, not legally, but per company policy. They know that you're really pissing them off, or they're really pissing you off, but they know, well, you can't fire me for this. You could write me up, and then eventually get enough write-ups, you get that paper trail.
Yeah.
You could. So lots of times, like, well, I'm hiring this guy.
Well, you had a situation when you came in that the culture was bad.
A couple
and
of them,
you were dealing
there
with
were a couple of guys,
one or two people that were,
and that's why you just don't let this person ride with that person, or and it may sound bad, but sometimes you gotta. And I would never name anybody, but to them, but I was like, hey, we got some bad apples here. You're hopefully will learn pretty quickly. Just, hey, we're working on some stuff. Just don't let it get you down. So if that, that's what I'll say. I won't say who specifically, but if they figure it out pretty quickly, then it's like, yeah, you're right.
Well, that's exactly where I wanted to go next on this was, changing a culture or developing that culture when you hire, it's a long game.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of time. You knew that from your experiences. You could have gone in there and looked at it and, man, this is crap. I'm out. I can't do this.
Yeah.
It took time. It's taken over a year to build that and develop it and change it and get the right people in and the wrong people out. But it was a long game, and it takes time to develop that. And really, that's anything in business, right? Nothing that happens quick, is good.
Yeah.
I just recently started reading the book, Good to Great. And, you mentioned
book,
you read that. And that study was over like a 15-year period.
Yeah.
And that's how they graded these companies, the corporations that they were saying, did you go good to great, is it wasn't an overnight success. A lot of them took 15 years to get to that point. And then they studied them another 15 years to make sure they really were great. And they didn't just, wasn't lightning in a bottle. And
yeah, talking about the beginning, go look at our first YouTube video, go listen to our first podcast. But then 5-6 years from now, come back, listen to this episode.
Yeah.
We think we're relaxed and fun and cool. We're going to come back and listen to this in 5 years, and hopefully, like, man.
And trust me, at that time, we wanted it immediate. Every episode, we wanted it to be great, and we just couldn't do it. And it
would take us a long time because we'd be like, okay, we'll stop. Let's just edit that out. Let's do that. Instead, it's like, no, just record it.
Well, like we said, we're approaching here in just a few weeks. Will be 6 years.
Yeah.
And we're still not great.
No.
I don't even know that we're good. We might be mediocre.
It took us way too long to figure out this microphone situation,
but it's a long
couple
game.
Hours ago.
It's a long game, and we know that. It's a long game.
Yeah.
And we just got to keep showing up and keep doing it and keep pushing through and, just try to win the day. Get 1% better every day.
Yeah. And you can tell, like I said, you start anything new, you're going to suck at it. Be brave enough to suck at something new, because you're not going to be good at it when there's nothing you're going to be good at the very first time you do a new, whatever sport.
Do you remember what that is? There's the stat of how many times it takes to do something.
It's like 10,000 hours to master something. Well, that's to master something. Yeah, no, it's 10,000 on average. 10,000 hours to master something. Like, I think the book I was reading was like playing a piano or learning an instrument or anything like that. 10,000 hours. I don't know if we have 10,000 hours of podcasting under us. Probably not that much, but between multiple podcasts,
you'd be talking about needing
streams,
about 8,000 episodes, probably 8 to 10,000 episodes of. You might be closer to that.
Lots of sports page, lots of lead-offs, lots of.
You're closer to that than I am. You've been in a lot more radio and podcast.
Well, we also did a few football games. So you think that's a few hours? It's really just getting comfortable in front of the mic, and I think this is a new lead. I need to redesign my studio where I'm kind of leaning back and not leaning over a desk. I think this is going to be better. I feel like this is a better episode for me than normal.
At least getting good vibes from it.
Getting good vibes from it. I don't know if I was interviewing someone right now, I'd just hire them. I'd hire them on the spot. That's
why I have my office set up that way.
Like a job interview. Yeah, you just sit on the couch. We'll work on that. No, but I don't even know how long. I'm used to being. I'm used to having the monitor in front of me and recording, and knowing how long we've been going. Are we anywhere near? We like tried the 1 hour mark, something around there. Should be the bottom right hand corner.
45 minutes. That's
Holy
good.
smokes! We still got long way to go. But generally, I think we've talked about it a lot. Like pros and cons. Like you're talking about hiring off vibes. You got your culture. You got your different mindsets. You have different ways of looking at things. I guess I can read my notes. Better attitude, stronger team chemistry, faster hiring decisions. Because you're not necessarily in your case, you don't really have to verify many things. Some people I hire, like obviously their credentials and things, they go through a background check.
Well, and that too, you talk about hiring fast. I mean, that is a mindset too to think, and I used to think that a long time ago, and I guess I still would if in the right situation. But it's hire fast and fire faster.
Yeah.
The moment you know somebody's not going to work, just cut ties. Don't let that. Like we said, the strawberries, the mold, like
it's going to cost you more money. Exactly. It's going to, for sure going to cost you more money, but directly cost you because they're not working out one way, unless you just think they're going to wake up one day, and that's not going to happen. Like if it's an aptitude issue or something like that, or performance issue, sure, you can. Some people it takes longer, certain things. Maybe you, like I mentioned earlier, you just move them to, hey, this is your strength. If they're good for culture, try to make them work if you can. But yeah, if it's a bad attitude, if it's, man, they just don't show up to work on time, it doesn't necessarily have to be, hey, they're a bad person or anything like that. I would today, there's a lot today that I'm bringing into this. I was talking with one of my employees about another guy who quit on the spot, who he wasn't a great employee. We were trying to, he had some issues with showing up to work because of family deals, which is fine. I'm not going to say, fire you for that, but necessarily, but it's like, maybe it's not the right job for you. Well, he found the right job for him because now he's working overnights and he can still pick up his daughter and do stuff like that. And sometimes it's like, hey, if you fire them which you can't fire somebody necessarily, depending on what state you are, you can't just fire them. Well, you have to pick up your daughter every day. So we're not going to, that may be something you talk about in the interview process. Don't be desperate to hire somebody, but also don't be desperate to get a job if it's not going to work for you because your schedule, it's not going to work for you. We were flexible and we were able to make it work most of the time. But lots of times you may be holding somebody back by not letting them go or talking to them and say, hey, this might not be the right job for me based on hours or what you're
those employees
just
they don't want to quit. They want you to fire them. They want you to let them go. I mean, sometimes that's more of a relief to someone than you hanging on to them.
Because they're not sure, they're not sure, man, if I quit this job and go do this, that's a big decision. I don't know if it's the right thing for me. But if they get fired, it's a relief. It wasn't my job. Wasn't my position.
Yeah.
And then obviously the cons would be you have the performance gaps, hiring somebody new. We talked about you have to pay to train them. It takes time away. It takes, long period. Like I said, I hire somebody brand new, no experience. It could take up to 2 months just before they get their feet on the ground. And then this person transferring 2 days in, he'll be running with the other
I think
guys.
that's something too, when every company should assess where they're at in that and what level of training they're willing or capable of doing. And they should gauge that too, is what are you willing to accept for experience? I personally am willing to accept pretty low or no experience. I mean, it's not a bad thing for us that you don't have experience.
We did market research trying to just who are your competitors. There aren't many. There are a few in this little gap, like, hey, this little thing you do, there are competitors. But overall, it's like there's nobody that's doing the same exact stuff, things you're doing. So it's difficult to find somebody who would have all that experience.
Right.
And I think one we haven't really touched on, which I was surprised when I looked at this, I didn't even think about it. When you hire off vibes, you may be leaving a lot of good people off the table because what about introverted people? Yeah. I'm very, very introverted. You may not be able to tell because I'm talking in a podcast, but if I don't get comfortable with you, man, I'm kind of a closed shell guy. And some jobs, that's obviously not going to be the person you want to hire, but maybe you don't get the right vibe from them because they're a little socially awkward
and not everyone
in an interview process.
Well. Yeah, that's a nerve-wracking
a bad interview. Like, I'm sure every person I've ever interviewed with, from my standpoint, I'm the interviewee, that they could tell you that if they've hired me, that they could tell you from my interview to, working there 3-4 years, I'm completely different. So if you I didn't really vibe with this guy. He seems kind of socially awkward. You could miss out. And I'm not saying just give everybody a chance because you don't know, but that's when you kind of look at, okay, what's his experience? What are the credentials? Are there other things that work right? Like,
well, and it's a little piece of advice for interviewing is don't lead off with what the company's doing or what, like, try to get to know them a little bit on the personal level, ease that for them, hey, you need a drink, you roll water, soda, coffee, that'll tell you a little bit about somebody. Okay, they're a soda drinker. They like sodas, or water's fine. Some people are just polite. Oh, water's okay. And they won't select something else, but
yeah.
If you see them pull up in a vehicle that's, a lifted truck or something, oh, do you like to off-roading? Do you do this? Do you hunt? What do you do in your personal time? What do you like? Really try to get to know someone. Sometimes that eases that conversation, and, you may spend half of your interview just talking about them and what they like to do or what you do on the weekends, really trying to get to know them and them get to know you, just to kind of break that ice a little better than just coming in instantly, what experience do you have? That's always a tough one, or why do you want to work here, or what drew you here? Like, kind of break that ice a little bit and get to know them a little bit and see what their interests are. And I think that will get your vibes more of what
you almost have to dig it out of people too, because outside of, like, obviously social media, I don't ever bring up that I have podcasts, that I do podcasts. I've been doing, radio or anything like that ever. Unless they ask me, like, it's great now when you get that question, what's something different about you, or what's a habit or a skill or something. Well, I podcast. It's easy to bring up then, but in general, I'm not just going to bring it up.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of awkward. It's weird. It's almost like you don't, not bragging, but it's like, oh yeah, I'm an interesting person. I podcast or something dumb like that. So unless it fits that I bring it up, I don't bring it up. So no one would ever know. Yeah. I'll work somewhere, and I don't even think anyone knew I podcasted at my current job until I was there 6-7 months, and until it just like, oh yeah, I happen to podcast. Yeah, I know a little bit. I try to, research that because I would podcast or whatever.
Yeah.
No, that's a good hack. I know one I've used before, the quintessential, what are your weaknesses and stuff like that, where it's awkward because you're like, well, if I say this, it's too much of bragging. It's like a strength, but I can't go with that. But if you ask somebody, okay, if I called your previous boss and asked them what their weaknesses were, what would they say? And they know you're not going to actually call them and do that. But in their mind, I think psychologically, you're like, oh, I got to tell the truth because that's on the tail. Like, I don't know, a fight or flight type deal in your mind. So they actually will really think about it and actually give you honest answers about what it would be. Just a little hack, a normal question without, being, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What are your weaknesses? Where do you, like, try to bring it out to them? Not just asking, hey, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I even think, I've had interviews where they would ask, oh, what do you like to do on the weekends? And sometimes in that moment, I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I like to get out with my family and do ask, hey, what do you got going on this weekend? What do you do? You got plans this weekend? Or, really try to get on that level with them. That's easy. That's an easy answer for them, right? Because that takes the edge off if they're not trying to, like, scramble their brain. If you're like, what do you got going on? Well, my kids got games. Oh, yeah, your kids play? Oh, okay. What all sports do they play? What, I think,
ask them a lot of questions.
Yeah, ask a ton of questions. I think in interviews, most of them I've been in, there weren't enough questions asked that really mattered to me. It was more of what they were trying to dig out, right? Like, what you said is, oh, well, what's a weakness of yours? Or what's where do you see yourself in 5 years? Those are like the stereotypical questions. Like, try to just,
you're not going to get an honest question. You're like, well, I'm not going to tell you, I want to be your boss in 5 years.
Or in 5 years, I want to own my own business. I want to be doing this.
I don't want to be working. Not this, I was like, I don't want to sit here for 5 years.
Exactly.
But one I've tried, which I don't necessarily recommend unless the situation calls for it, because when I was just hiring, just because we were so behind, so it was going to be hell for whoever we hired. And there was a guy I had to deal with. He got hired right before I got hired. And so I was kind of stuck with him right when I started. And he's like, well, that's not what I was told in the interview, and all kind of, like, obviously lying, like trying to get out of stuff. That's not what I signed up for type stuff. Or I would just intentionally look really stressed at the beginning of the interview, be like, okay, I got to deal with this. And I'll say, hey man, I'm not going to sugarcoat it right now. It's great. And, like, make it sound really bad. Like, first of all, like, if that doesn't scare you away, we're probably, that you passed that test. But 2, also, then I can come back down like, hey, man, if you can get past that, now it's like, hey, I'm a pretty cool person to work for. I'm not going to, you got kids stuff. You kids have extracurriculars. Let me know ahead of time, and we'll work with a way to get you off early. Or, hey, maybe you come in early. You go do this. You go do that.
What's his name? The Buccaneers, the coach they had.
Gruden? Old one?
After Gruden. Just recently. The one previous to the one they have now.
The ones with the Cardinals.
Older
before.
guy. Yeah, with the Cardinals. What is his name?
Bruce Arians.
Bruce Arians, yeah.
Yeah.
That when he was telling his people, and I think when he interviewed, he would do the same thing, but when he would tell his staff, if you miss a recital, you miss a kid's sports game, I'll fire you.
Yeah.
Don't miss. I don't care what we have going on. Don't miss. That's a big one too. And I think that when you're building a culture, and you're trying to get those vibes, right? We're talking about like, man, why?
Don't come to me at 3:00 and say I need to leave early. My kid has this. Like, let me know ahead of time.
Yeah.
Like I had one of my drivers tell me Wednesday, hey, how's Friday looking on routes? Like my family's going out of town. We're going to go to New Orleans or something. He's like, I'm trying to get off by 1 or 2 o'clock, which in all reality, he gets off that early anyways because he comes in early. He does what
But he's just making sure it's
But
not
he
gonna be
let
a
me
long
know.
day, yeah.
I said, you know what? That's fine. No problem. I don't care what Friday looks like. That's going to happen. Now, I won't know till tomorrow what Friday's going to look like, but hey, let's go ahead and get everything done today early. Here's your route for tomorrow. Go ahead and knock a couple off there. So now you're going to get done early tomorrow, and then we'll look at, and yesterday he hit like half of his route for today. So today he was in at 4:30. He was done by 11 o'clock this morning. And he wanted to be off by 1, 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's fine. Let me know. Like I said, don't show back up and, hey, I'm done. Well, I'm not done, but I'm done because I have to get my kids thing. Like, at least tell me in the morning so we can work something out. And no joke, it was always the same guy that would not come in until 9:30, 10 o'clock and then want to get off at,
Yeah.
It's like, if that's going to happen, come in at 5. And, they run their routes. They have access to whatever they need to have access to. You could freaking come in at midnight to do that.
If we're going to accommodate you, then you help accommodate
and not every job can necessarily pertain to that. It just depends. If you're an over-the-road driver, obviously that's not going to be the same thing. But the same deal is like, hey, my kid's got a recital in 3 weeks. Can we make sure I'm back in town for that? There's always something you can work with.
Yeah.
Because lots of times I feel like I'm being interviewed a little bit in an interview, like I'm trying to sell to them, which is fine, especially if I get good vibes. But you don't want to sugarcoat anything. It's at the same point, just like they don't want to sugarcoat anything. But you tell them, you almost have to get to a point of scaring them a little bit if that's truly the way it's going to be, because they'll say, yeah, I'll show up whatever time. I got early on, I would just say, yeah, you can really start whenever you want because you can run your route. And then I learned really quickly, well, don't say that because then they don't show up till late, but then they're not going to work late too. And even if they do, it's like, man, they're running behind. They're getting tired. They're getting frustrated. Now so it's more like, okay, well, this is the time I expect you to start, no later than this. You can come in as early as you want. So I kind of switched it around. Like, you choose your start time, but it can't be later than, like 8 o'clock or whatever. But if you want to come in at 4, 5, and now that pretty much everybody does, it's like, because a couple of guys would do it and then everyone understood that's the standard for them. Not I said for me, I'll say 8 o'clock. But they realize
that's those guys developing their own culture. Because
the
thing is that as a business owner or even a manager, you can't always establish and set that culture. You can give them the tools for that, but the staff you put together, they're going to determine what your culture actually is.
And no matter how relaxed you are with people or how much leeway you give people, they're going to have conversations that you're never going to know about. And rightfully so. You want that to happen. You want, to have that, I guess, term of endearment, respect. They want respect to you because you're the owner, you're the manager, you're the boss, you're whatever. You want kind of that distance a little bit, and then they could have it. Like, I kind of do that with my ops manager. Not necessarily good cop, bad cop, because neither of us are really a bad cop. But they'll talk to him more than they'll talk to me. And that's fine. He's not going to tell me, but he'll give me like, hey, this is the vibe. He's a little upset about some stuff. So like, okay, we'll fix that on the back end to make sure, not necessarily go to him as like, yeah, he told me you were mad about this. Not that necessarily, but you kind of get that vibe. That's what you want. And that's what I was like, I tell people is, you don't have to answer to me unless you really screw up. If you're slacking off, they're going to realize it before I realize it.
Yeah, they'll police it themselves.
Yeah, and then they're going to come tell me. By the time they're coming to tell me, it's already too late.
Yeah,
because that means they've lost it.
Yeah,
and that's what they would do. It's like they would come tell me, and I'm like, okay, that's what we gotta deal with. We'll see. Maybe we can change it. Maybe I can do that. But it's like you don't want it to get to me.
Yeah,
you just want them to, it's all about building the right culture. And sometimes it's hit and miss. You're going to hire guys you think are right. You have no idea anything's wrong, and they just don't show up one day. And you're like, man, and there are a couple of guys like that. And I'm like thinking, whatever happened to, because everything was going fine. I thought it was going fine. And some other guys were like, yeah, it was, but he talked about stuff, not necessarily not liking the job, but he had issues here and there. And that's why it didn't work out. But, everyone to their boss or manager will, try to be their best behavior 24/7, always trying to impress. And then when they don't need to impress, they're just out. Mm-hmm.